All right, well, we're going to talk today about Williams College. My name is Alex Diodezio. I am Senior Assistant Director of Admission in the office, and I manage the transfer and veteran admission programs. And I'm just going to share a little bit more today about the college, about what we offer for veteran students, and I'll touch briefly on admission and financial aid since we don't have a ton of time together. So just briefly, who we are, who makes up our community. We are a small liberal arts college in Massachusetts, right near the border of New York State and Vermont, about 3 hours from Boston, 3 hours from New York City. We're 2,200 undergraduate students. And the focus here is really on undergraduate students, and all professors only work with undergraduate students. We're about 34 transfer and veteran students. It's a small program that we're looking to kind of grow in the coming years, but we definitely offer that more intimate academic experience. And it's a big part of why students choose to come to a place like Williams, because they're really drawn in by the tight-knit community that we have and just how welcoming and warm really everyone involved in the community is. For the transfer veteran and non-traditional student community specifically, we offer a number of resources specific to those groups to make sure that they're really getting the support that they need. But really, Williams is a place too where veteran students get to just be Williams students. They're very much involved and incorporated into the larger student body. When it comes to some of the more specific resources, we offer a transfer and veteran orientation program for incoming students as they enter into the space. That takes place at the same time as our first generation student orientation, and students are able to participate in both if they identify that way. So there's some flexibility with that. And then after those two take place, we have our larger incoming student orientation. So veteran students are able to get some time just with the non-traditional student community. That program is run by our Director of Transfer and Non-Traditional Students, Tamanika Stewart, as well as 2 student ambassadors. So you get to meet current students, get to meet the point person in the dean's office that you'll connect with a lot throughout your time. But then also you can participate in the larger incoming student orientation to get to know the rest of the student body that's joining the class. So definitely moments to participate in both. The Director of Non-Traditional Students, Tamanika, that I mentioned, she's great. She's a huge resource for our veteran students and all of our non-traditional students. She makes a point of meeting with students virtually before they even start at Williams in that summer period, and then connects with you during orientation and certainly well beyond it. The student community, the current student community is also really vibrant and involved. We have a student veteran association as well as a transfer student union, both of which are active in getting doing outreach to students as they come in and current students. Housing is guaranteed at Williams as well. We offer a variety of different options for students depending on your circumstances. So basically depending on age, if you're moving with a spouse or partner and or moving with children, based on those criteria, students may qualify for a few different options. But we've had veteran students who have lived on campus in the dorms. We've had veteran students who have lived in our off-campus apartment units. Those are called swale units, and they are provided by the campus still. So you don't have to do your own housing search. You don't have to go out and find an apartment on your own. We still provide the unit for you, but it is a more independent apartment kind of space, and usually like a 5-minute walk at most to campus. So still very much part of the campus community. So like I said, there's a few different options, and we have that kind of spelled out on our website, what the swale housing looks like. For those that are moving with a spouse or partner, we do offer family resources as well to kind of help support that transition a little bit as they navigate this new space and try to figure out what that space will look like for them. So we do help with that process to the extent we can. And we do have certainly supports and resources for children, which I'll touch a little more on the financial aid side. But basically, veteran students who tend to be drawn to Williams are really drawn in because, like I said, they get to be Williams students. So any opportunity that's available to any other Williams student is pretty much always available to our veteran students as well. So they are not existing on the periphery. They're very much included in the student body, and it means there's a ton of opportunities and resources available to them, while also still getting those moments of differentiation that can be really important and helpful as you form connections with the veteran community and just get the supports that you need for your particular circumstances. When it comes to academics, I mentioned that we're a liberal arts college. I'll kind of break down some of what that means on this slide here. It means specifically for Williams too. So as a liberal arts and sciences college, really the full name, we offer a range of different programs, 65 different areas of study. There's 700 classes offered each year. So lots of different options for students depending on your interest and what you're looking to study. And then we offer, as part of that, both a lot of flexibility to be able to take lots of different kinds of classes, and I'll give more specifics as to how that looks, but also the ability to have really intimate academic experience. So small classes, an average class size of 13 students, 7-to-1 student to professor ratio. And all of those classes, 100% of them are taught by faculty members. So you're in those small classes with your professors, really getting to build close relationships. And faculty at Williams are amazing. They really are involved in some pretty cutting edge research, but they're also very much invested in getting to know students and making connections with students and really getting to learn your individual stories. So they're a really great resource to lean on. With all these classes that you have to choose from, the way the academic structure works at Williams, all students take 4 classes per semester. So 4 classes per semester over however much time you're here. And of those classes that you're taking, you have 2 central requirements. One is what's called our distribution requirement, which means that all students, regardless of major at Williams, are required to take 3 classes in each of the 3 academic divisions listed here on the slide. No requirements as to what class you take within each of those divisions. So totally up to you what you take in division 2 or 3 or whatever it may be. But we do require some level of breadth. We think that that's important within the curriculum. Beyond that, the only other requirement is to have a major. Majors require about 9 to 11 classes to complete. And we kind of intentionally keep that on the lower end so that students have a lot of that flexibility I was talking about before. So students are able to take a wide variety of classes. It's not uncommon for students to double major at Williams. A little over 40% of students double major, and that's certainly true of the transfer community as well. So definitely very manageable to do. Other students will take on our concentrations, which is our version of a minor, but much more interdisciplinary. You're taking classes in lots of different departments to complete it. We have our pre-professional programs as well, pre-med, pre-engineering, pre-law, which offers some really close advising and allows students to get really prepared for pathways in those graduate schools and in those careers and become really competitive candidates for those. Beyond that, I'll just say, students, because of all this flexibility, because of the way the curriculum is designed, they're really able to take a lot of ownership over their curriculum, to really be able to set up an academic pathway that makes the most sense for their interests and their passions, and that they really get to take the lead on. So lots of different ways that it looks student to student. I'll just highlight one particular unique academic opportunity that we have at Williams that really is our most unique academic opportunity, and that is our tutorial class. It's a type of class that we offer to students, and it's a class with just 2 students and 1 professor. So pretty much as small as you can get. That's the entire class. This photo here is a tutorial class, and it's a very different structure than your typical class too. We're really the only college to offer this particular type of class in the United States, particularly at the depth and scope that we do. But we did model it after Oxford University tutorial classes. They're the originator, and students do have the option to study abroad for their whole junior year at Oxford University. It's a special partnership that we have and take only tutorial classes. We actually have our first veteran student doing that this year. But the way the tutorial class works, it's this trio, that 2 students, that 1 professor. They're meeting once a week, every week. And each week, 1 student is assigned to do some kind of independent work. It could be an essay, it could be a problem set, it could be a research abstract, it could be a music composition. It'll really depend on the subject of the class. But whatever it is, they'll send it over to their partner at least 24 hours prior to class. And then their partner will write a 1 to 2 page critique of their work. And then they'll come to class, present what they produced, have a conversation about it, and they'll switch those roles every week as they go throughout the semester. So it's really kind of just an extended academic conversation that takes place over an entire semester. A chance to do a deep dive into a really cool subject, a chance to do a deep dive into your own skills, and students just grow quite tremendously through the experience because there's just so many opportunities for practice and feedback. And you really build a really cool little academic community there too with your peer and with your professor, since you're really just there to support and help one another along. So a very different kind of way to do classes. I mentioned there are about 12% of the 700 classes that we offer each year. So there's quite a few offered. They're offered in all of our 65 different areas of study and at all course levels. They're even tutorials specifically designed for first-year students. So they're always available. They're never required, but a great way to really get to engage in your learning very heavily. So when it comes to life after Williams, Williams students go on to do lots of different things in lots of different places. But the kind of connecting thing is that they're all pretty successful in their life after Williams. And a big part of that, I think, is because they're really not doing it alone. They have a big network of support behind them in the process, as they do at all steps, really, but particularly in this moment, especially from the 68th Center for Career Exploration, which is our career center right on campus. They're an amazing resource. They really try to meet with students from the moment they arrive to campus all throughout their time, and really have a number of resources available to students, from resume and interview workshops to career fairs and speaker series, right on campus, to funding opportunities. They help to pay for unpaid internships for students, for example, as well as doing the really important work of connecting students to the alumni network, which is the oldest alumni network in the US, but also just a fiercely loyal group of folks. People tend to love Williams because of the tight-knit community I've mentioned and just how warm and welcoming everyone is. They tend to have really positive experiences here, and that makes them go off and be alum who really want to engage with and support the current students as well. So anytime I talk to veteran students or really any student and talk about their engagement with the alumni community, they're always pretty overwhelmed by how receptive people are and how much they get back to them really quickly, and are just eager to do whatever they can to help their own journey, whatever that may look like for them. So they're a huge resource. They're doing all kinds of interesting and exciting things. And definitely one that students lean on a lot for internships, job shadowing experiences, networking conversations throughout their time at Williams, but certainly as they get to that moment of thinking about life after Williams and graduate school or a career or combination, they're really helpful in that process too. One story to kind of exemplify this, we have an alum, Jake, who graduated in 2019. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he was a philosophy and biology double major at Williams. He ended up working in strategy consulting in education and healthcare in Boston for a couple years after graduating. The way Jake always tells the story is he just learned about, had never heard of consulting before, but happened to stumble upon a session at the 68 Center for Career Exploration that was about consulting. Everybody there was wearing suits. He was wearing like a t-shirt and shorts, and just decided to hop in and see what it was all about. Ended up learning about a field that intrigued him, and that he ended up working in for a couple of years. And then he used that as a springboard to then go into medical school. And he is now a current student at Harvard Medical School. I think entering in his third year now. So, just an example, I think, of both the ways in which a liberal arts curriculum is designed to be really interdisciplinary, philosophy and biology, really flexible, and allow students to build a really wide range of skills that work really well for graduate school and the career force. And we often find employers see them as really appealing because students are just really able to move very seamlessly between different kinds of tasks. And so I think Jake's story is a good example of that. So when it comes to admission, you can apply a few different ways. You can apply through the Common App or the Coalition application. If you're applying as a first-year student, you can apply early decision or regular decision. Early decision is a binding program. So if you apply early decision and are admitted, you're committed to attending Williams. And then we also have a transfer round, which is a deadline of March 1st. We do offer some level of flexibility with these admission rounds and your eligibility for each. So if you're curious, if you have questions about your specific situation, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We've had students, as an example, who have qualified, who are eligible to apply as transfer students, but are just so excited about Williams that they want to apply early decision, and we allow them to do that. So different things like that are possible sometimes. So just feel free to reach out, like I said, if you have questions about your individual situation. The application should always be free if you are a veteran student. If you are applying as a transfer student, it is just free for everyone. Nobody has to pay, so you don't have to worry about it at all. If you're applying as a first-year student, there is a fee, but it's waived for veteran students. So that should happen as you're filling out the application. If it doesn't, if you're having trouble figuring that out, again, don't hesitate to reach out. You should not be paying anything to apply. And then we don't use interviews as part of our process, but everything else that is included in the application, we're reading and considering. We use something called holistic admission. So we're really looking at all of the different pieces and all of the different components of what you share with us, including the VetLink addendum, if you choose to submit that. And we are test optional through the class of 2025 at least. So no need to submit any testing at all, totally up to you. The majority, I would say, of our transfer and veteran students do not submit testing, and that's absolutely fine if that works for you. And finally, I'll just say, when it comes to financial aid and affordability, this is something that we really take seriously, and we really do offer one of the most generous financial aid programs in the country. Right now, 100% of our current veteran students pay nothing at all to attend Williams. Some of those veteran students are using their military benefits. They're using their post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, and they're using Yellow Ribbon, and they are welcome to do that. And that is helping them to meet their need. But other students are not. We also have a lot of veteran students who choose not to use their military benefits at all and maybe save that for graduate school. And that's absolutely fine as well. We'll instead meet your need, your financial need, with our institutional aid, federal aid, any combination of things. But either way, 100% of veteran students are paying nothing at all to attend Williams. So there's very generous financial aid, no matter which pathway you choose. When I talk about this too, when I talk about, paying nothing at all, I'm talking about the full cost of attendance here. So we really try to think as comprehensively about this as possible. So that means your tuition, that means your housing, that means your food, but it also means your personal expenses are factored in, travel back and forth to another place you call home if you have one. If you're moving to Williams and this is your home year round, that's absolutely fine. We will make sure that your housing is available to you year round as well, including breaks and summers at no additional charge. We cover health insurance if you need it. We have funding for childcare. If you have young children, or just, care for children, if you have older kids, for stipends, for things like that. Year-round housing, I mentioned. There's funding, as I've said, for internships or research opportunities, which are also widely available at Williams, and very much something that students can take advantage of and get funding for. As well as emergency situations. Books are also covered if you're receiving any amount of financial aid at all from Williams. You're getting your books covered, your textbooks covered all 4 years here at Williams, completely covered. So again, we try to take the most comprehensive sense possible of what are all the costs students are going to face when they come and attend Williams, and how can we address those right from the beginning. Everything that you receive from us as well, all financial aid that you receive from us, is grant-based. So meaning you never get any loans. But beyond that, you're also never required to work as part of your financial aid. We became the first college to do this as of this last academic year, and we're really excited to kind of open up this door a little more for our students, make it even more affordable. So again, I had a few different ways you can go about your financial aid at Williams, but either way, the vast majority of our veteran students face no costs at all when they attend Williams. So I'll end there. I'll say there's lots more information on our website. Certainly check that out, our admission Instagram page. A couple opportunities I'll just highlight too. We do have a Williams travel grant program, which allows for all expenses paid visits to campus at a time of your choosing. So it's a short application, but you do have to apply. If you're selected, you and I will meet, talk about when you might want to visit campus, and that trip is fully funded and paid for. It gives you a really great opportunity to actually see this place in person, talk to lots of different people, and see how things might fit. And that usually takes place in the fall for students that are going to be applying this next academic year. And then each October, usually the last Friday in October, we also host a transfer and veteran open house that happens in person on campus, but also virtually. So you can participate either way. And we host a series of different sessions where you get to hear from lots of different folks involved in the community, to learn more about the transfer and veteran experience here, and to ask your questions and just learn a bit more about us. So definitely keep an eye out for those if you're continuing to be interested. But otherwise, like I said, don't ever hesitate to reach out. I do have one-on-one appointments available on my calendar throughout the year, as well as another colleague of mine who works with veteran students. So we're always happy to have individual conversations. But I'll wrap it up there. That's Williams. So I see some questions here. So let me start with these. So one question, are students required to select a major when applying? No, thanks for the question. So no, at Williams, students do not select a major until the end of sophomore year. So when you're applying, all we ask is, what are your academic interests? And you're able to select multiple to get a sense of what you think you might want to study, but it is not required to declare a major unless you start as a junior student. One thing I didn't talk about that maybe is worth mentioning here is when it comes to transferable credits, we'll review whatever previous credits you have. And if you get an admit letter with that letter of admission, we'll also submit to you a transferable credit review. So you'll know how many of your credits are transferable and what you could start at. Could you start as a fall semester sophomore, fall semester junior, whatever it may be. You have to spend at least 2 years at Williams. but we'd let you know your starting point. And then at Williams, you do have a very unique opportunity to relinquish your credits if you want to. So you could say, let's say we say you want to start as a fall semester, you can start as a fall semester junior. You could say, I want to give up some portion of those credits. I want to give up a year of credits, and I want to start as a fall semester sophomore so that I can spend 3 years at Williams. Or I want to give up all of my credits and I want to spend all 4 years at Williams. You have the flexibility to decide that and to be able to do that until the end of your first year at Williams. It doesn't have any impact on your financial aid. Will still meet 100% of your financial need throughout your time at Williams. It's just an option, basically, for students who want to spend more time here and have more time to take advantage of the opportunities. Some students really, that's not appealing to them at all, and that's totally fine. Other students are super excited by the idea, but either way, it's available, and we do find that most of our students end up doing it to some extent. So just to say that that depends on what point you decide to start at. If you start as a junior, then yes, you do have to declare a major once you're admitted, but not when applying. If you start at any earlier point, you have until the end of sophomore year. There was also a question about what is required to apply for financial aid and when is the deadline. The deadline for financial aid is usually about the same as the deadline for admission. So, if you're applying early decision, that's a deadline of November 15th. The financial aid deadline will be about the same, same for all the other rounds. Sometimes they're a little bit different, but they're usually very similar. What's required is a FAFSA and a CSS profile financial aid application. So those are the names of the two financial aid applications. One is called FAFSA, the other is called the CSS profile. The FAFSA is just a much shorter, very quick snapshot of your financial picture. The CSS profile is more detailed, takes a little longer, but it does really help us a lot getting that additional information, and usually we're able to offer you more financial aid as a result. So we find that it's really helpful to us to get both applications. They're both required, and we'll work with you if you have any questions as you go throughout the process about how to fill those out or what's missing or anything like that. We're happy to work with you individually to kind of navigate that process. There was another question: are there nearby resources for families, healthcare, childcare, shopping, pet care, etc.? Absolutely. And we have a website a webpage that answers some of these questions, not quite all, but definitely a good place to start. If you go to our transfer student page or our veteran student page, you'll see a sidebar where there's a link to a non-traditional student page. That non-traditional student page has a lot of information about moving to the area, what's around here, what you should know, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a really great webpage to look through for some of these questions. But just to give you a sense, absolutely, there's a hospital about 10 minutes away from us in a town called North Adams that has a lot of facilities there. But there are two slightly bigger hospitals about 25 minutes away in two towns that are kind of slightly different directions, one within Massachusetts, the other right over the border in Vermont, that are larger scale hospitals and offer a number of services as well. So we find that students are pretty much always able to get their medical needs taken care of there. Although there's also a medical facility, a health center right on campus as well. And that's great for just your checkups. I've got a cold, kind of basic health care. There's a lot of services right here on campus as well that are available to students. For family members, they would need to go to some of the other facilities in the area. And of course, there's other doctor offices, dentists, things like that are just right nearby. Otherwise just, certainly shops, certainly childcare facilities. The college actually has a childcare facility right on campus. And that's where most of our students with children have their children enrolled. And again, we have a stipend available to help cover the cost of that. So a number of resources in the area. I definitely encourage you to check that non-traditional student page out more for more detail. But again, that's kind of the general idea of what's available, and we are always happy and available to answer questions of it, as I mentioned. But I think we're wrapping up there, so appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.